Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Andrew Laidley. Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis conducted a special audit on Noranda Bauxite Limited recently. The audit was done to determine whether the circumstances surrounding the issuance of a letter of credit to the government was consistent with best practices. The findings of the audit were published in the Auditor General's report on selected public sector entities for the 2016 calendar year. Here's more. In accordance with a request from opposition spokesman on finance, the Auditor General launched an investigation into an agreement between Noranda Bauxite Limited and the government of Jamaica. This arising from a dispute between the government and the bauxite company regarding an interim agreement which was signed on June 9, 2015 to allow Noranda to continue exporting bauxite pending the completion of an arbitration proceedings. The agreement required the payment of $3.75 US per metric ton in cash and $1.25 US per metric ton in irrevocable letter of credit issued to the government and payable on the termination of this agreement. On December 18, 2015, the arbitration tribunal ruled in favor of the government and awarded the sum of $12.6 million US representing bauxite levy to be paid by Noranda. But the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service did not make a timely and compliant request on Noranda's irrevocable letter of credit, leading to it expiring and a delay in recovery of $5.06 million US. On January 25, 2016, 4 days prior to the expiration of the letter of credit, the ministry made a drawdown request to an overseas bank. However, the bank did not honor the request due to the ministry's failure to submit the required site draft and the beneficiary statement. This was communicated in a letter from the overseas bank dated January 28, 2016, but stamped as received by the Office of the Financial Secretary on February 1, 2016, after the expiry date on January 29, 2016. Subsequently, on February 8, 2016, Noranda Aluminum Holding Corporation, the parent company, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the USA. Following this, the government of Jamaica submitted the claim to the court for an amount of $23.5 million US, which included levy payable, interest of $1.2 million US, and other outstanding taxes and awards. The ministry has since notified the Auditor General's Department that the new owners of Noranda Bauxite Limited agreed to repay the $5.06 million US as part of a larger debt repayment over an 8-year period. CEO of Viral Engineers and Gamma Engineering Limited in Ontario, Canada, Anthony Warner says Jamaica lacks the proper regulatory framework required to effectively expand its renewable energy sector. Mr. Warner was speaking during an exclusive BATV interview. More in this report. Mr. Warner said he has reviewed the OUR's regulations himself, and based on what he sees, the framework is inadequate to manage the island's growing energy prospects.
Jamaica has a very hard situation because energy management requires a lot of regulations and standards in place, which is not, based on my knowledge, is not fully in place in Jamaica. I've been involved in reviewing the OUR systems for a couple of years now, maybe 4 or so years, and the system is not there, as I see it, to make it easy for these actions to take place.
Mr. Warner suggested that the government take notes from the Canadian government, which has implemented an incentivized energy system.
In terms of doing energy regulatory framework or changing the framework, like in Canada, in Ontario, we had a feed-in tariff program where it is insensitive for people to put solar system in place, and then the grid would pay, or the utility pay the homeowner for the power that's coming from their homes and they would get money effectively by doing it.
He said instead of imposing new taxes, the government could consider giving tax breaks for energy-efficient companies.
You know, the government at the time usually use the tax dollars as best as they can. So I'm not really, I wouldn't say I'm in a position to make any comments directly related to taxes. What I can say is that from a government point of view, there are ways that you could incentivize the people by giving them tax breaks for being energy efficient. So, but how that is managed and allocated is could be a difficult task, especially if the overall infrastructure is not that good, so you can actually monitor it well.
With more individuals living their lives out loud on social media, more employers are scrutinizing your pages before they hire you. That's why the Hire Trust NTA hosted a public forum yesterday in St. Ann to take a closer look at the issue, Amita Prasad Webb reports.
Dr. Wesley says there's research to prove that social media is playing an integral role of companies. He says recruiters are broadening the scope to include the reviewing of unconventional sites in their decision-making process.
Recruiting via social network has become a standard operating procedure for many organizations. Research suggests that most recruiters use social networking sites to identify new hires. LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter have traditionally been the top hunting grounds for recruiters. However, recently savvy recruiters are using other social media channels, such as Instagram and Pinterest, to find recruits.
Because of this, he's advising prospective employees to be mindful of their social media presence.
As part of the recruiting process, employers can do a quick search and have a peek at the social activity of a potential candidate. You should be mindful of what you display on the networking page. Recruiters use these networking sites to assess whether you are professional they are searching for.
Meanwhile, he's encouraging employees to use social media more in their recruiting process, indicating that it improves the quality of the employee they are hiring.
Social media improves quality of candidates, time to hire, and employee referrals. Employers use social media recruiting in two ways. One, to communicate job posting. This they do by posting jobs on social media sites such as LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. This is a cost-effective way to publish job openings to a large audience. And screening. Organizations also use social media to search for potential candidates. LinkedIn is geared towards this activity, and employers may be able to screen potential candidates who may have not even applied for a position.
For BATV News, I'm Amita Prasad Webb.
Still to come, Customs says Asakuda is working better. The details when we return. Welcome back. Chief Information Officer at the Jamaica Customs Agency, Andre Williams, says the automated system for customs data Asakuda World has significantly helped with their service delivery. He was speaking on BATV's Weekend Business Report recently. Anthony Morgan reports.
Andre Williams says the operations of the JCA are above par when compared to the years before the implementation of the Asakuda system in 2014.
We're seeing an average of maybe about 40% in terms of the volume of cargo being cleared on a daily basis when compared to prior to that. That being the case, we're saying our off-dock facilities or public bonded warehouses were processing as close or above 500 persons. In some cases, we have seen 550 persons being processed within a business day. That is significantly more than prior years, where we would have seen an average of 350 persons, and that would have taken you well into the night. we are able to process all of these persons and close operations by as late as 8 p.m.
The information officer says the automated system has also been helpful where security is concerned.
The availability of information, of course, we now have real-time access to all transactions that are being processed island-wide, and we have used a risk-based approach to intervention, so we are able to, of course, identify importers, cargo of interest, and of course, set those aside while allowing for the free movement of cargo, which of course is not of interest to customs.
In the meantime, Mr. Williams says the Asikuda system has also allowed them to receive data from other government agencies.
We have integrated Asikuda with the e-trade system, which allows for the receiving of permits license from 5 regulatory agencies. Those are Trade Board, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, Plant Quarantine Veterinary Services, as well as the Pesticide Control Authority. And we're now acting on this information, and pretty soon we'll be moving towards an automated write-off of these permits license, which will further simplify the interaction that we have with the client as well as with the regulatory agencies. They are also making use of the system in terms of risk profiles that are set on their behalf, and they are able now to access the system. These are the regulatory authorities to carry out their assessment of declarations or cargo which would be deemed of interest to them.
He says with Asikuda, the Jamaica Customs Agency can also provide relevant data in real time.
Satin has real-time access to the data, and of course, this now allows for proper accounting and proper reporting on the trade performance of the country from the different sectors, be it a manufacturer, charitable, hoteliers, etc. So they do have real-time access to the information, and we have also provided access as well. We have been providing the Bank of Jamaica with data, and we're making further arrangements to ensure that they have real-time access, as the case may be, to, of course, generate reports in terms of country performance, etc.
For BATV News, I'm Anthony Morgan.
Chairman of the National Housing Trust, NHT, Ambassador Nigel Clark, says the entity has embarked on an ambitious and aggressive drive to assist persons in owning their own home. He says during 2017-2018, the entity will commence construction of almost 6,000 housing solutions across Jamaica and provide loans for mortgages at a cost of $28.6 billion. Approximately 1,700 solutions will be completed during the year. It's estimated that these projects will generate employment for close to 4,000 persons. For the new financial year, the NHT plans to distribute approximately 8,000 new loans, valuing some $17.5 billion. Ambassador Clark says the agency is cognizant that one of the most urgent needs of the Jamaican populace is for affordable housing solutions. He was speaking last week at the groundbreaking for the development of 61 service lots by the NHT in Shrewsbury, Westmoreland. The development is expected to cost $119 million. Minister of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries Carl Samuda is expressing support for Irish potato farmers as the government seeks to achieve self-sufficiency in the crop's production. He was addressing farmers at the launch of the 2016-2017 Irish Potato Program in Manchester recently. The National Irish Potato Program is aimed at increasing production of the crop to fulfill 100% of local consumption demand. Minister Samuda says currently Jamaica produces 85% of the required amount of the Irish potato needed each year. He adds that this figure had moved from 40%, it was 5 years ago. He says this is a reflection of the cooperation and support both locally and internationally, and of the commitment emerging in the country from those who are a part of the agricultural initiative. He further encouraged the farmers to continue to increase production, noting that efforts should be made to using new techniques and new varieties of seedlings. Meanwhile, Minister Samuda says farmers should ensure that they are registered members of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, JAS, the Production Management Organization, and RADA. The minister is also urging farmers to work together so that the country can achieve the target of 100% self-sufficiency in Irish potato in a timely manner. Stay with us. Regional and international stories are next. Welcome back. It's time now for regional and international news. Anguilla has been added to the list of Caribbean countries partnering with home sharing network Airbnb. The Ministry of Tourism in the British Overseas Territory, located in the Eastern Caribbean, has signed a memorandum of understanding with Airbnb to provide the island's unique identity, cultural heritage, and environment. Airbnb's representative for the Caribbean and Central America, Sean Sullivan, says Airbnb and Anguilla will work together to highlight Anguilla's genuine appeal as experienced through the eyes of locals. The agreement provides for Airbnb to share aggregated data with Anguilla to improve understanding on how home sharing is driving tourism. Anguilla's Chief Minister and Minister of Tourism, Victor Banks, says the deal would have the effect of affording Anguillans of all walks of life an opportunity to be involved in the tourism accommodation sector. Meanwhile, President of the Anguilla Hotel and Tourism Association, Delroy Lake, said his organization embraced the opportunity to reach new consumers and develop a win-win partnership with Airbnb. The agreement with Anguilla is the latest in a series of agreements in the Caribbean, following on from Curacao, Jamaica, Aruba, Bermuda, and the Caribbean Tourism Organization, CTO. With a day to go before UK Prime Minister Theresa May triggers Article 50 to start separation talks from the EU, the Bank of England is warning UK banks to prepare themselves in case of a disorderly Brexit. Ivor Bennett reports.
For Theresa May, the timing couldn't have been better. On the eve of pulling the Brexit trigger, a massive vote of confidence in the UK economy. Qatar's sovereign wealth fund pledging £5 billion of investment.
It is a bold statement of continued confidence in the British economy from long-term investors committed to prosperity in every part of our United Kingdom.
Qatar already owns more of London than the Queen. Iconic landmarks like the Shard, Harrods and part of Canary Wharf among its £40 billion worth of UK investments. For them, the cheap sterling is just another invitation.
You know, everybody regards this as a risk, but of course to Qatar this will be seen also as an opportunity because they will be able to participate in the long-term strength of the UK economy, and whilst that is risky, it is certainly not more risky than Qatar's own economy.
But for others, Brexit is still a big risk. Germany's Chambers of Commerce expect higher costs will bring a strong decline in UK business and investment, while the Bank of England has warned UK lenders to brace themselves in case of a disorderly departure, fearing continental customers may suddenly be cut off.
We've had really rather a good economic outcome post-Brexit, and I worry that this has encouraged people to believe it's all plain sailing from here. However, we have an acceleration of inflation, and I suspect that later this year we will have a reduction in growth, and we could even conclude the year with a form of stagflation.
The BOE has also warned of a surge in consumer lending, launching a review into standards. One day to go until the formal divorce starts, and its effect is still dividing opinions.
Britain's biggest retailer, Tesco, has agreed to pay £214 million in fines and compensation for investors to settle a probe over a 2014 accounting fraud that sparked the biggest crisis in its near 100-year history. Rosanna Philpott reports.
3 years after the accounting scandal that rocked Britain's biggest retailer, Tesco hit with a total bill of £214 million to settle several investigations. That includes a £129 million fine and compensation earmarked for investors, the first market abuse payout of its kind. It's part of a so-called deferred prosecution agreement with Britain's Serious Fraud Office. A necessary step followed to escape criminal conviction. Tesco announced a £263 million black hole in its balance sheet back in September 2014. The news caused company shares to plunge, the biggest crisis in its 100-year history, and a sector-wide price war. Since then, the supermarket giant has been rebuilding itself, CEO Dave Lewis transforming its relationship with suppliers and simplifying the business. But he's not quite in the clear. The new agreement needs approval from the courts, and Tesco still faces a claim by institutional investors of over £100 million.
Chinese conglomerate group is in talks to buy a controlling stake in the owner of the publisher of Probes magazine. Here's more from Laura Freitberg in an exclusive Reuters report.
It regularly features the fortune of the famous. Now it's the fortunes of Forbes itself in the spotlight. The media company is being eyed by the Chinese conglomerate H&A Group, according to sources speaking exclusively to Reuters. H&A wants to buy a controlling stake in it.
There is an appetite generally by Chinese companies to exhibit or express more soft power, and the capacity to get into global media to be able to present a better picture of China to a global audience is, I think, an important motivation.
And it could have a hefty price tag. The deal may cost as much as $400 million. But money is no object for Chinese investors, say some. The sale would be part of a wider trend in the industry.
China has very strong money supply growth, but it actually has a rather limited supply of opportunities for investment at home. And all this free cash is clearly swilling out into the global economy. It's moved house prices and property prices, and now it's going to move corporate prices in spades as well.
Last year, H&A bought an 80% stake in a Beijing media firm as it expands out of its traditional aviation and logistics sectors. It signalled it will purchase more media assets. Forbes could be the repeat performance.
Talking Stocks is after the break. Welcome back. It's time now for Talking Stocks. 50 stocks traded today, of which 17 advanced, 28 declined, and 5 traded firm. The main JSE index declined by 594 points to close at 222,859 points. The junior index advanced by 48 points to close at 3,044 points. Over 9 million units traded, valued at more than $85 million on the Jamaican dollar market. And on the US dollar market, over 375,000 units traded, valued at $112 US. JMMB Group, 7.5%, with over 2 million units changing hands, accounted for 28% of the market volume. Lasco Manufacturing was second with over 1 million units trading. Lasco Distributors, with over 1 million units, accounted for 10% of the market volume, crossing the floor. Iron Rock Insurance was a top advancer, up 67 cents to close at $3.84, followed by Radio Jamaica, up 20 cents to close at $1.87, and Scotia Investments up $3.60 to close at $40. The main decliners were Key Insurance Company, losing 45 cents to close at $3.05, followed by Berger Paints, down $1.44 to close at $11.57, and the Jamaica Stock Exchange down 65 cents to close at $7.15. And that's all the news we have for this evening, but before we go, a recap of our top story. Auditor General performed special audit on Noranda Bauxite Limited to determine whether the circumstances surrounding the issuance of a letter of credit to the government was consistent with best practices. Thanks for watching. For more content, visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Andrew Laidley. Pleasant viewing.